Hello and welcome to our Gem Pursuit. I'm your host Matthew Weldon and I'm joined today by Fenia Sigkoudi, and we are going to be talking about the story of a jewel, a monarch and a pirate, which I think is a pretty good mix, all things considered. So Fenia, what piece and what painting are we going to be talking about today?
We're talking about a very beautiful cameo pendant, a very large gold enamel pendant from the Renaissance period, related to the personal life of a very fearsome and brutal pirate, Francis Drake. The item is housed at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London.
You have a bit of an interest or a history in art and history and jewellery as well, don't you?
I do, yeah. I'm Courtville's historian. I have been here for the past year, and I have been assisting at the research for the past podcast episodes that we have been having.
When we were planning this series, we did a girl with a pearl earring the last day, which I thought was a really great one to kick off.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our viewers, I know we've got a few messages, people, it said, of course, we had to do that for a jewellery and painting series. But this one mightn't be as well known. But talk to me a little bit about the painting, Fenia. What are people going to see if they look at this painting?
Right. So the Drake jewel itself as an item is available for viewing. It's on display, the item itself. However, you can also see it through a very famous painting of Sir Francis Drake, the pirate. The painting is situated at the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich, in England, and it basically shows Drake presenting his jewel with a lot of pride. It was one of his most prized possessions. A beautiful painting. Drake sits in front of a table, dressed in a beautiful Elizabethan robe. He has the jewel suspended from a ribbon, and he places it in front of his stomach so everybody can see it.
You can actually go see it in person,
and
you can actually see the painting, and then it's like the jewel has transcended all these years and still be viewed today. But it's obviously very different to the girl with a pearl earring. It's, as you said, it's on his stomach.
Yeah, it's very different from Girl with a Pearl Earring. When we're dealing with Vermeer's painting, we're dealing with a jewel that's basically an ideal, a jewel that doesn't really exist. When we're dealing with the Drake jewel, we have basically a pendant that was very much real, and it was created specifically to give out a message about Drake's position in Elizabeth's court and their relationship, basically. It's a fantastic pendant. If you were looking to learn more about lockets, it gives a lot of information about the usage of lockets and their various meanings in the Renaissance period. But it also gives us so many fascinating details about the life of an extraordinary person. Not necessarily the most ethical one. Drake was a pirate, but definitely fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm looking at the painting here. It's not a pirate like you might think, that's portrayed in modern popular culture at all, right? He, as you said, he's got the Victorian
Elizabethan.
Oh, Elizabethan neck. What did you call it?
It's a big ruffle. It was
ruffle.
very popular during the era of Elizabeth. You will see many people in the court wearing it. Francis was a commoner. He was the son of a farmer. He grew up in a farm. Then he spent most of his life on ships. So the fact that he's wearing this particular costume, this particular ruffle around his neck in this painting is deliberate. He's doing it to basically tell the world that I am established. I'm one of you, and I'm wearing this huge pendant that Elizabeth gave to me.
And we'll get more into their relationship, because that is a really interesting consideration, that this pirate got very close to Elizabeth at the time. I mean, when we look at the pendant, what I really love about this, it actually incorporates lots of different jewellery elements. We've talked about these before in previous series. We've talked about enameling, which you'll see in this. It's got diamonds, rubies, and a cameo, and as you said, lockets. And inside there's a picture of Queen Elizabeth.
Hmm.
And, it symbolizes to me, my takeaway was that they must have been quite close. Now, the other element here is the actual cameo that's on the top.
Hmm.
Cameos are typically, you see a lot of cameos, they can be carved in shell, but they can also be carved in hard stone. This is a hard stone cameo. Possibly of onyx, because there's layers of white and black and kind of mixes and everything in between really in onyx. But when you carve into onyx, you can actually get different colors at different areas as you go through. And the piece that was chose to be carved here is fantastic, because at the front there is a man of African descent, and then behind them there is a Caucasian person. Very interestingly, they're depicted as almost Roman emperor in their style. But the piece of stone that was used to do this was just perfect. So I think from a carving perspective, this is really well done. And obviously you've got a big, big natural pearl at the bottom. And we've talked about pearls before in one of our episodes, and this is a very impressive 300 years or so before cultured pearls. So this is one comes probably from the Persian Gulf, I'd imagine. But I mean, a pearl of that size and stature is super important.
It's a very impressive piece. As you said, it's a very large pendant. It is framed by basically an elaborate series of enameled scrolls and forget-me-nots. Very, very beautiful. Probably required a lot of working hours to make something like that.
Yes.
At the bottom of it, you have a cluster of pearls, lots of pearls suspended from the locket that culminate into a single large teardrop-shaped pearl. And at the center we have a cameo made out of sardonyx. And at the back we basically have two figures in profile. The front figure is a man of African descent dressed in regal Roman robes, which is very unusual. Behind him we have a looming figure of a Caucasian person, a white woman, basically. So very rare, very, very interesting. And it is directly related to Drake's activities and his relationship with the Queen.
Yeah, and I think moving into that historical context is really important to understand this painting and the jewel a bit better.
Yeah.
I mean, the story of Francis Drake, I mean, he was well known, and not just in, the UK, he was quite well known in Europe as well.
Francis Drake was basically known worldwide.
Right.
I think that he was one of the most famous Englishmen of his time. He did very well with his time, I would say. He started from a very humble background. As I said, he was the son of a farmer. He grew up in Devon. I would be surprised if he knew how to spell and read at that point. And everything changed when his father sent him over to Plymouth Harbour, to live with his relatives, the Hawkins family. Hawkinses were privateers. They were navigators. They had ships, and they basically did a lot of. They were merchants. They would travel the seas and basically trade. They were one of the first recorded English people who actually got involved into slave trading they used to capture African people from Africa and transport them to the New World.
We're talking 1560s, 1570s.
Yes, Drake basically grew up in this type of environment, and he got involved into these activities from a very early point in his life. At this point that we're talking right now, England and Spain are the two dominant powers in the world. Spain has acquired the majority of the Americas, a region that has lots of gold and silver and other agricultural products, and they're becoming really rich. Elizabeth and people like Drake want a piece of the pie. And what Drake has been doing for his entirety of his life was basically going where the Spanish are in the Americas and stealing what they have acquired under their nose. So you're dealing with slave traders and other slave traders going against the first party, thieves and thieves fighting with each other. Brutal scenes, generally speaking.
Do you think he considered himself a pirate?
That's a very interesting question, actually, Matthew, because if you ask him, I think that he would be very offended by the fact piracy was illegal at the time. And if he openly acknowledged that he was a pirate, people would hang him. He would get executed. Elizabeth recognized his abilities, his navigational abilities, his battle abilities. And she thought to herself, I could employ him, he could steal for me. So that's what Drake did. In order to protect him, she created a very ambiguous legal status. She called him like a privateer, so basically a person who works for the English crown.
Because when you said that word privateer a few minutes ago, I thought it was, I didn't really know what it meant.
Yeah, it's a gray area.
Yeah.
So privateers were basically merchants or people who work for the crown, and they're allowed to attack other ships and steal from them.
Once they're not one of their own ships.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because those ships are considered the enemy of the state. So technically it is legal because you are attacking the enemy of your queen. So I think that he would insist on the privateer term.
I think she did it's quite a clever move in some ways. Not that I'm saying the actions are right or wrong, right? Obviously, you know, it was a long time ago and stuff, right? And they were clearly wrong, right? Unethical. But I suppose her situation was really, he's going to do it anyway. He's going to steal ships and steal whatever. Why would I do a little deal with him and then he does it for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth basically took a large portion of the profits of Drake. Whenever he traveled, tax. Whenever he traveled the world, she would take a big portion of it. And she was very pleased with him, generally speaking. He caused a lot of damage to the Spanish, and that's why he received the nickname the Dragon. Francis the Dragon, the Spanish used to call him Francisco Draco. He was so fearsome, like he was brutal in battle. And he did very well. Elizabeth sent him all over the world. At some point, she sent him to basically cross the Atlantic and go cross the Straits of Magellan and go up northward across the west coast of the Americas and steal lots of like treasure from the Spanish. She was so successful. When he returned back to England, he brought at least, like, if I'm not mistaken, like £160,000 worth of gold and silver and precious jewels, things like that. And on top of that, he actually performed this first circumnavigation of the world. Not the first, but he was the first like Englishman who did it and returned back to tell the tale. So he was basically like super, super famous. She knighted him on the spot when he returned back. He was the mayor of Plymouth by the next year. So we're talking about a guy who started from zero and
he did very well in that case. Again, whether his methods were doing it or not is another question. But and then I suppose the jewel, the question is, how did it get from where it was, or when did he acquire it, and how did it get to where it was today? Like, it's obviously traveled through, it's 300 years a minute ago, but I think it's closer to 450 years if my mental arithmetic is any good. But it was a very important thing from, but did he get it from Elizabeth?
Yeah, he got it from the Queen.
Right.
So the Drake jewel is a very characteristic example of how lockets of this type were used in the Renaissance period. So back in the day, monarchs could give you like a large pendant with their miniature portrait in it to signify their gratitude for your services to their government. And Drake got it exactly for this reason. He made England very famous by performing the circumnavigation. He offered Elizabeth lots and lots of treasure. He irritated her worst enemy, the Spanish king, Philip II. And also he played a very important role into one of the most significant battles during the time of Elizabeth. And I'm talking about like the invasion by Philip II using the famous Spanish Armada.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very famous battle in history. And at the time, we talked about in Girl with a Pearl Earring, the Dutch ruled the waves, as that's what they said.
Hmm.
The Spanish at this time, had an absolutely enormous fleet of ships.
Yes.
And I guess, you know, today we think of travel. We actually, if you said something, oh, we're going to go somewhere abroad, you think of a plane, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because that's how we travel a lot these days. But ships were the way people went around the world, and it was super important to get access to these new lands, new markets, whatever you want to call it. He was one of the best in one of the most important industries of sea traveling, right?
Yep.
And this battle, right, was pivotal in terms
Yes.
of history.
This is a very important battle. Imagine it as the Spanish version of D-Day, basically.
Right.
So it was that important. So we have Spain, the Habsburg empires, the Spanish Habsburg Empire rules the world, has all those colonies in the Americas, lots of money. A Catholic power as well, gets very irritated by England and the fact that they're Protestant now, wants to infiltrate, wants to expand its influence over the British Isles. Elizabeth is resisting. She employs Drake and other people like Drake, which she calls the Sea Dogs, to constantly provocate the Spanish king and take away all of his treasures, all of his prizes from the New World. She also actively supports the Dutch rebellions in the Netherlands, another country that didn't want to basically bow in front of the Spanish king. He has enough. The Spanish king has enough at some point, and Drake's raids are how do you call that, Matthew, in English? Like the tip of the last
Tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, the tip of
the
the
iceberg.
No. The last straw.
No. Yeah, no, they're two different. Yeah, I get it.
Two
The
different
straw. No, I think his raids were the straw that broke the camel's back.
Exactly.
So it was kind of, the camel was just surviving under the weight, and
Mhm.
this one little thing tipped it over the
Yeah.
edge.
Yeah. So he basically says we're gonna gather 130 large ships, like a huge fleet.
Yeah.
People did it was very impressive. And we're gonna gather all of those ships and we're gonna attack England by sea. Elizabeth was very prepared. She employed Drake once again. She asked him to be the second in command of the English fleet. Long story short, the two fleets confronted each other at the English Channel. Thanks to Drake's very clever maneuvers, they basically managed to disorganize the Spanish fleet. The Spanish ships were large and very heavy, and Drake had small ships with lots of guns that had a very long range. He attacked them at night when they didn't expect it. They lost their formation, the Spanish ships. At some point, they started drifting northwards, and they had to cross Scotland and then go all the way around Ireland.
Oh.
They were hit by a vicious storm. Many of the ships sank, and that was the end of the Armada, and England was saved. At the time, people thought that it was basically due to God's intervention. We're talking about two powers that follow different branches of Christianity. Both of them claim that they're following the correct branch. So when it was over, Elizabeth was extremely popular. People started recognizing her as a tremendous queen, and England was saved. And after this incident, she most likely gave this jewel to Drake. We're not exactly sure when she gave it to him exactly, but because this was one of his largest contributions to the crown, we think that Drake received the jewel right after that battle, or at least this is what the curators at the V&A Museum claim at their official website.
Yeah. I mean, there's it's like anything that's this long ago.
Yeah.
You make your best attempt at understanding it, and it seems totally plausible.
Yeah.
Having not being an expert in it at all. But listen, we've talked a lot about its history, how he got it, some of the context, I suppose, around the relationship between the UK or the British Empire at that time and Spain, and the Netherlands was mentioned as well, which was kind of a nice lead on from our Vermeer episode too. But I suppose we have to just look at the jewel
Itself.
closely here
Yeah.
and kind of the legacy and the meaning behind it. Because the first thing I see when I look at the portrait
Mm-hmm.
is it's very symbolic. Like it's saying a lot of things really without actually saying anything because it's a painting. There's no words, obviously.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about that, the meaning, the kind of legacy of it. I think to do that, we need to look closely at the jewel.
So when you think about lockets, what pops in your mind first, Matthew?
What's inside?
What's
I suppose.
inside? Yeah. So lockets are basically containers, correct?
Yes.
So because of that, they are directly linked with memory. They commemorate something, they signify something. Later on, like for example in the Victorian era, we see like people putting very sentimental things in their lockets. So they turn this whole item into a very personal thing, right? But in the time of Drake, lockets like that were meant to be a public statement. So Elizabeth gave the locket to Drake to basically thank him for his services, and Drake made sure to flaunt it. And when you look at it closely, it's very obvious what she was trying to say. It's in a very elaborate locket. It has like table cut rubies and diamonds all over the cameo at the front. Pearls, as you mentioned, that are very, very rare at that point in history, very valuable. We have the cameo, the sardonyx cameo in front of it, which basically signifies the relation of Drake with plundering, slave trading, things like that. Drake, like the Spanish, used to take a lot of treasure from the Americas, but like transporting people there was vital for taking all that treasure from the ground, like transporting it back to Spain. And Elizabeth wanted a piece of the pie, and Drake used to do that for her. So I think that it's very interesting the fact that she chose to have like an African man in regal robes, and then the figure of a white woman looming behind of the man. Like it feels like the man wears a regal robes because he belongs to somebody regal, and Elizabeth is just at the back, like claiming what Drake gives her. So that's a statement of his activities, Drake's activities. At the back, you have her official portrait hidden within a locket. The portrait itself was created. We know that it was created by a very famous miniaturist in her court called Nicholas Hilliard, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
You are?
He was very, very talented. He used to make lots of portraits of Elizabeth, and all of those portraits were crafted with the aim to present the queen in the best light possible. This is not, if you look closely at the portrait, we're not seeing at an accurate representation of how Elizabeth looked like back then. At this point, she should be around 50, but if you look at her face, she has no wrinkles. Her skin looks flawless. She's adorned with lots of jewels, like pearls, diamonds, things like that. We call this type of portrait the mask of youth. This is how art historians call these types of portraits. They were made to present Elizabeth as an immaculate, almost like ageless, godly person. And Elizabeth...
I mean, that sounds like, and on a very real note, that sounds exactly like what people do on Instagram or TikTok today.
It's propaganda. It's basically propaganda, which means that Elizabeth basically created this portrait for people to see publicly. If it was something very intimate, like in the type of lockets we see early in history, it wouldn't look like that. I think that she created that pendant for people to view and admire, and Drake was extremely proud of it, and that's why he basically included it in his portrait in 1591.
Front and center in the portrait.
Front and center in the portrait. Below her miniature portrait, Elizabeth has also included the image of a phoenix rising from its ashes.
Yes.
which is a very famous religious symbol. The phoenix rises from its ashes every 500 years. It's a very powerful symbol of rebirth, political rebirth, and chastity. Elizabeth used to use it all the time. So here we have a pendant that screams out to the world, signifies Drake's status, his activities, his relationship with the queen, and also highlights the queen's importance, her godly presence, the fact that she's almost like a phoenix. It's a very important piece of jewelry.
There's so many symbols in this piece, like so many, really making a statement on a number of levels. And as you said at the very start as well, in the big departure from our first episode, is that we can still see this today.
Yeah.
But he left and thankfully, he was very careful about this. And obviously that's what we know was so important to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
He left very careful instructions about what to do when he passed away with this piece.
Yes. So Drake died at some point, and he made sure to leave this pendant to his brother, Thomas. And then Thomas made sure that this pendant would stay within the family.
And Drake was unmarried though, was he?
Drake was married twice. So he was married with a girl before he got famous.
Oh.
I think that she died at some point, I'm not really sure. And then he got married with a very wealthy girl after he returned from his circumnavigation, and he got knighted. So you can see the change in his status in relation to the woman he was involved with. But anyways, Thomas made sure that basically the women in their family could retain the jewel, and as long as they stayed unmarried. Because if you get married back in the day, your possessions move to your husband, and this family heirloom would move to their own hands. So they were very careful. And we're very lucky that we have the jewel in public display at the V&A Museum today.
Yeah, and then it just went down through the generations, I think, and then probably through inheritance. There's no record of it ever being sold anywhere.
I'm not really sure. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, not that I think again, we're talking 450 years, right? And it's a jewel, but this is what I find amazing about jewellery, is that it was there for somewhere for 450 years, and then obviously now it's on display. But somebody had it, and somebody was looking in their jewelry box, and then they had this piece. Just quite incredible. But yeah, the symbolism, as you said, the phoenix, very important. The actual cameo itself, the carved sardonyx, even the stones, and then the locket with the image. The what do we say it was? The ever youthful? No, the
Mask of Youth.
Mask of Youth.
The Mask of Youth, yes.
Super important piece, and it really places this really importantly in history. I mean, that was a key turning point, the battle for the Armada.
Yes.
And who knows what the world could look like today if it went a different direction. And he was pivotal in it. And the symbolic gratitude of Elizabeth, I believe, was this piece.
Most likely. Yeah, that battle was extremely important. Like history, you cannot actually predict how history would look like if that battle didn't happen, if Drake did not contribute to the defeat of the Spanish. But England eventually became one of the largest naval powers in the world for the next centuries. And this battle was it was a milestone. If the Spanish king won, who knows how the world would look like. Again, it's very difficult to predict the future, and the course of a nation's history is not, you cannot just pin it down to a specific event, but still we cannot undermine the importance of the battle, Drake's contribution, and also the jewel itself, because it's a token of what happened. It's fascinating what a locket like that can tell us about the relation between queens, their court, things like that.
And the pirates.
And the pirates, of course, the pirates.
I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and research with me and with the Gem Pursuit.
Of course, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed that.
And that's all from Gem Pursuit today. Again, as I said, that's the second episode in our new series, Jewellery in Paintings. We've got another one coming up very soon. This episode was produced by Ross Hannon of Tape Deck, with project management and research by Veronica Gagan and Fenia Sigkoudi right next to me here. And the videographer is Colin Weldon. So from myself and everyone else here at Courtville, I just want to say thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next time on Gem Pursuit.